when it comes to the Patriots and their day yesterday, and we had most of their signings while we were on the air, they're almost all on defense outside of Morgan Moses and I guess a few moves they made later in the night.
True.
Josh Dobbs, Mac Hollins. But a lot of money on defense, specifically one of the most coveted free agents, penetrating D lineman in Milton Williams, along with some of the other moves they made. Carlton Davis in the secondary, Spillane at the linebacker level. They made the Harold Landry move early on in free agency. So a lot of money spent. A lot of money spent on defense. There are still needs for the Patriots. What'd you think of day one?
Loading up on defense, and it's the old saying, like, if you're going to be a Bear, be a Grizzly. And it seems like right now, I obviously was looking for offensive players, but I'm not going to, like, poo-poo what they did. They spent money. We've been waiting for years for them to spend money, and the biggest deal of the day was Milton Williams, right? Like, not counting some of these, like, re-signing announcements and things like that, like, not kind of like Josh Allen's deal and stuff. But if you're looking at the free agents yesterday, I think Milton Williams was the biggest contract. And he was definitely one of the 5-10 best free agents. And if they're really trying to load up on defense, because the defense sucked last year. Like, they need a lot of help there. And I assume Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams, just having those guys in, replacing Covington and Mayo, should be a step in the right direction. But you also need players. And they got somebody at every level. They got a couple of D-line, right? You got Landry, the pass rusher, and Milton Williams, so that's good. You're shoring up your front. We saw in the Super Bowl just how important the front can be. You got a linebacker who tackles everything, and then you got another corner to go on the other side of Christian Gonzalez. So when Mike Vrabel was talking about, we want to be able to, in free agency, check enough of the boxes so we could show up and play a game, they did on defense. The defense can play a game tomorrow. And, yeah, they might still tinker with it. They might add draft picks. Who knows what else is going to happen. But if you said they got to line up and play tomorrow defensively, they can do it.
So this is exactly what I was going to say. And there's still a move or two away on offense. But the thing that Vrabel promised, they're about halfway there. And on defense, they're a lot of the way there where we're going to go into free agency, we're going to fill a bunch of needs, and then we're going to let the draft come to us.
Yeah.
If they sign Cam Robinson, who is arguably the best free agent left on the board, if they sign Cam Robinson at left tackle and they make some kind of move at wide receiver,
Kupp
would be great.
Kupp would be, at this point, I think, best option.
Yeah. Schefter had the tweet last night where Kupp is probably going to get released barring a late unforeseen trade. So you're going to have to outspend teams and outmaneuver teams on Kupp and sell him on coming to New England.
Yeah.
But if they sign Cam Robinson and Cooper Kupp, and those are big ifs.
Right.
All of a sudden you look at free agency and you go, oh, Vrabel did what he said they were going to do.
Definitely.
And they're going to plug a bunch of holes. They're going to fill out all their needs, and then pick 4 in the draft is going to come to them, which means
duck boats.
Doesn't mean duck boats, but it means they could move down. They could take, if they wanted to, a player like Will Campbell. They could take a player like Mason Graham. They can move back and accumulate assets. They can let the draft come to them. And I would say furthermore, yesterday, and we already felt this way late in the show, but yesterday was evidence that it's definitely not Elliott Wolf. Anybody like me who was fearful that Elliott Wolf was going to have any role.
He re-signed Hooper.
Maybe.
He got his guy.
It is Vrabel running the show. And so if they don't have a receiver and they don't have a tackle, you can blame Vrabel. And if you want to give them credit for the signings, you can give credit to Vrabel.
Yeah.
But it is Vrabel running the show. I think one day into legal tampering, we got our answer on that.
Well, and they had so many needs. So as much as I want a left tackle, and they're eventually going to need to get a left tackle, and as much as I wanted a wide receiver, every other spot they went out and got a guy on, it was a need to some degree. Really, we said everything but quarterback and one corner. So you could go every which way. Defensive line, we probably thought on paper that they were closer to being ready than some of the other positions. But I think Mike Vrabel and Terrell Williams looked at it differently. It's like, all right, Godchow, you can, we're going to trade you. We'll figure out the other guys. I don't know if you can rely, unfortunately, on Barmore health-wise. So they're like, we're going to spend a ton of money on Milton Williams, which right off the rip wouldn't have been my number one choice. Like, hey, you're going to spend $100 million on a guy. What position? Forget the guy. Like, what position are you going to spend $100 million? I'd be like,
tackle,
left tackle,
wide receiver,
corner even. And they're like, no, we're going D-tackle. But that's how they want to do it. And so they're also putting a lot of expectations on themselves to turn this into a top 10 defense. Even like right away. Like, you can't spend that kind of money and also bring back some of the players that you have. So you have a all-pro corner, in Gonzalez. You have another corner who's really good. Landry could be a double-digit sack guy. And then Milton Williams was literally at the center of a Super Bowl winning defense. So you put all that together. Although, yeah, you're going to say something about Williams?
Are you nervous at all about Milton? They spent $100 million on him, $104 million. You can jump in all day long, 617-779-7937. I think the short answer, too long didn't read. Keefe and I are both thumbs up on the Patriots spending money. They still have needs, but I like what they did yesterday. I still want a receiver. I still want to tackle. There are options still out there. If they don't get them, we'll rip them. But too long didn't read, thumbs up. Do you like what they did yesterday? Are you still waiting for the receiver and tackle until you can really make a decision? Again, 617-779-7937. Lots of ways to interact with the show on Twitter and Instagram at Jones and Keefe. The full bracket is up on Twitter and Instagram for our March Madness uniform bracket, which was interrupted slightly yesterday with Twitter being down.
That's all right.
But you can seek those out. You can vote at Jones and Keefe on Twitter.
Were you able to recover from that?
In the latest hockey region? I'm going to be honest, my phone, and I don't know if it's because I'm an Android, my phone is still like a little spotty.
Probably the Android.
The computer here at work.
Yeah.
The computer here at work is working fine. My phone's still a little bit spotty, if I'm being honest.
Okay. Speaking of phones, can I tell you what my buddy, who is a buddy from college who lives outside of Philadelphia and is an Eagles season ticket holder, what he had to say about Milton Williams?
Well, so I'm curious if it's the same thing. Go ahead,
All right, so this
is... Something tells me it's not that.
It's not that, actually. Yeah. So he just wrote, and he's not like what you would assume like an Eagles fan is. He's really not like an in-your-face guy. Like he didn't like put the Super Bowl like shove it in everybody's face. He's not like
throw batteries at Santa Claus. Okay,
he's not that.
Yeah, okay.
But he's a diehard Eagles fan. All he wrote was, I didn't like the what it sounded like. Good luck with Milton Williams and his contract. That's how it starts. Let's see how he does without Jalen Carter next to him. A lot of money for one player! Exclamation point.
Okay,
and I just responded like, I'm just glad they spent money.
Okay, so we actually have a slightly different. I agree with you on. I'm happy they spent money.
I'm happy about it. I'm just pointing this out.
Maybe they overpaid on Milton Stilt. Maybe, but I'm nervous he's never even played 50% of the snaps on defense.
I didn't know that until yesterday, and it might have been right before he signed. I think they were talking about all the different. I
think he maxed out last year at 48% of the snaps. So
that is a lot of money for a guy that doesn't play all the time.
Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm happy they spent the money. He was a coveted free agent. They got him. Good for them.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've said that, ... do I have any concerns? Or do I have to ask the question why the Eagles let him get the free agency? He was a part-time player for them.
Well, they also couldn't pay every single guy, I guess. And,
True.
They got to figure out what they want to do. They, Zach Bond and Saquon Barkley both got big raises. The one thing, though, again, not to come across as a negative Nelson on it, I wonder. I know they play different positions, but being on that Eagles defense and specifically next to Jalen Carter, who's one of the best defensive players in the league. Does it remind you at all of when the Pats got a Dallas Thomas? And he actually was pretty good in 07 and in the 07 Super Bowl, but then it just went south. But he came from a Ravens defense that was loaded.
Yeah.
Everybody would pay attention to Ray Lewis. Everybody would pay attention to some of the other guys they had up front. And so a Dallas Thomas could kind of fly around and do like whatever he wanted, kind of unchecked. And different positions, so I know it's apples to oranges, but when you would play against Philadelphia, I think you're like, where's Jalen Carter? We got to double team Jalen Carter and all this other stuff. So I wonder if there's any concern with that.
Yeah, you spent $104 million on like the Eagles' fifth best defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Which might be your best defensive lineman.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I don't criticize you doing it, but I also don't want to overstate. All right, the Patriots brought in this guy, and now all of a sudden, what, there are duck boats, as we were saying earlier?
I just think there's a lot of, I said the expectation for the defense is high, but for him specifically, when you get that kind of contract, it's great. Robert Kraft finally spent. Mike Vrabel is able to break through and do that.
Agreed.
But now the defense needs to be good, and this guy needs to be good.
Right. So what I would say is you're better, but you still have a long ways to go. You still need to ace the draft. There's still more work to do in free agency. And so, good. I'm happy you're better. I'm happy they spent the money. I'm definitely not complaining about that. But let's also not overstate what Milt the Stilt, Hoss of the Week here on Jones and Keefe.
He is the Hoss of the Week.
Milton Williams is, because he was a part-time player in Philly. And he was a guy who, you're right, Keefe, was part of a defensive line where other guys like Javon Carter got a lot of the attention. So you can watch along, twitch.tv/Boston WEEI. You can chat there as well. Always a healthy chat on Twitch. And watch on YouTube by subscribing to WEEI. One text here, Keefe.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Okay.
It goes back to what you were saying about a lot of activity shortly after we get off the air.
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys wrap up the show so the Patriots will sign more players.
Honestly, if they get Cooper Kupp, it'll be at 205 today. I feel pretty confident about that.
I feel like you're certainly onto something.
Uh-huh.
By the way, we are broadcasting from the WEEI studios, powered by Verizon. We're going to keep our eyes on all the news out there in free agency today for the Patriots. Who do you want them to land? Who do you think they're going to land? What do they still need to do? You can jump in here at 617-779-7937. Keefe, I'm looking at the Florio Top 100 in free agency.
Okay.
You ready for the names that are left best I can tell?
Oh, man.
This is the whole top 30.
It's not a great list. Anyway, yeah, so who's left?
So there is, after Javon Holland signed this morning, there's no one left in the top 10.
Yeah, Holland to the
agency.
Giants. Yep.
There is two players left in the top 20. Safety Justin Reed from the Chiefs.
Okay.
And Vikings offensive tackle Cam Robinson.
So that's it. As far as priorities for the Patriots or guys that they should still be interested in, I know they just spent a pile of cash yesterday, but the offensive line, I mean, Morgan Moses, probably more of a right tackle or more of like a backup tackle at either spot.
He's played both in his career, but last year he was at right tackle. He's in his mid-30s. He's battled some injuries.
I think of him
you
as
probably
like
don't want him at left tackle.
Like a Cam Fleming. Like you could put him at either spot or like a Vidarian Love.
But I'm with you. If they sign Cam Robinson at left tackle with Morgan Moses at right tackle, that is not all of a sudden some great offensive line, but those are professional tackles.
And you also go into the draft with a lot of flexibility,
tackles.
too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're not like, oh, we have to come away with the starting tackle. Like, no, that'd be nice, but you can at least play a game without it.
And I personally, if Carter and Hunter are gone in the draft, I personally would be more open to Will Campbell at 4 or trading down to Will Campbell at 4 if you had Robinson and Moses, where it's like, okay, maybe Will Campbell is a guard, or maybe he's a tackle and now we have a safety net if it doesn't work out that way. So I'm with you. They kind of have to be all in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're going to wind up paying. Jalen Moore got $15 a year. Dan Moore got $20 a year. You saw, what's his name after we got off the air, too, from Houston got dealt. Larry Tunsil got dealt as well to Washington. And so the tackle market has been pretty hot.
Up. Teach your kids to be 330 pounds. That's my recommendation.
Mekhi Becton is 23 on that list. Aaron Rodgers expected to sign with the Steelers today, which would be good for the Patriots, by the way.
Crazy.
That'd be good for the Patriots.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, it means the Giants didn't get a guy.
That means the top 3 teams in the draft all need a quarterback.
For sure.
Tennessee, Cleveland, and the Giants.
Even the team, like, I'm with you. Like, that would just make it a lot easier. But even a team that Aaron Rodgers signs with, guess what they also still need? A quarterback. Like, because they should at least be in the market for one. He might be the guy for a year, but how many years can you count on Aaron Rodgers to play for?
No, it's a good point. Will Freeze signed today, right? Didn't I see that this morning?
So. Yeah,
so he's 26, and then Josh Myers. There's like 2 or 3 players left in the top 30 on Florio's list, which is just one list. We've been going off it today.
Yeah, Vikings got Freeze,
but it is a reminder that while free agency doesn't officially start until tomorrow at 4 o'clock, most of the big ticket names have been picked off. So Cam Robinson, maybe Cooper Kupp gets released and the Patriots pounce on them. Those feel like the biggest needs remaining for the Pats, and the 2 names that I think Keefe and I would both identify.
I don't know if that list has been updated. Do you got any interest in Kyle Juszczyk from the 49ers?
Sure.
The tight end or the fullback?
Yeah,
they cut him.
Not a big priority for me, but sure.
But if McDaniels is sprinkling in a little bit of a fullback, this is not your prototypical fullback. He can actually, catch a pass. But.
Text line, why do you guys always find the negative in everything?
That's true.
I think we've largely been pretty positive. We were just pointing out that Milton Williams was a part-time player for the Eagles. That's all.
I just think lining up next to a stud like that in Jalen Carter, like, will it be the same for him? He might be nasty. And they do have good players up front. So, like, Williams and Barmore could be a couple of wreckers. Like, I'm not saying that that's not a bad thing, but I don't know. If you just asked yourself prior to free agency, I don't know how many people that we were like, hey, you can spend $100 million on a player. I don't think many people would have come up with D tackle.
No.
But not that you don't want this player in particular. I just think other positions kind of jumped out at you more.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, the Patriots yesterday, Chad Graff?
No, it's Kraft.
Set the line at 1.5, $20 million AAV.
Well, so one's a push, right?
One is a push, but still.
Carlton Davis, good signing.
But they went over that, and they may still go over that, depending on the money they're going to have to throw at Cam Robinson. I doubt Kupp is going to command that kind of money, but we'll see. So is Milton Williams your favorite signing yesterday, Keefe?
No.
Okay, he would be mine. So I was about to ask you, which signing do you like the best beyond Milton Williams? So
Carlton Davis.
What was your favorite signing?
I like Carlton Davis. I like the idea that I think he could maybe be a number 1 corner on other teams, and the Patriots have a number 1 corner, but they're like, we need more than that. and I think the pass rush is going to be benefited. So whether you're talking about Milton Williams, who as far as like D tackles are concerned, good pass rush. Harold Landry, I know like the pass rush rates that came out weren't very good, but the overall sack number has been pretty solid the last few years. So I like the idea of just adding like a really good corner duo. Think about all the great receivers they seemingly play week in and week out. We highlight a lot of the quarterbacks in the AFC, but most of those quarterbacks have one or two stud receivers. I mean, you play the Dolphins twice a year. The Garrett Wilson with the Jets, whoever Josh Allen's throwing to, just because he's so good. I love the idea of doubling up and having two really good corners.
So I really like the Carlton Davis signing as well. I prefer Milton Williams because they threw $100 million at a guy.
That's a great sign, yeah.
And by the way, the Panthers supposedly were going to sign him. We said that at one point during the show yesterday.
Yeah, Diana Rossini, I believe, said that he was going to the Panthers.
Your girl with a nice scoop there.
Whoops.
And it turns out they go, no, you're not going to Carolina. You're coming to us. So not only do I like that they threw a bunch of money at it, but I like how that maneuvering went. And I would say the same thing about Carlton Davis. We said this late in the show yesterday. But I was floored when I saw the numbers on DJ Reed. DJ Reed went to Detroit. Carlton Davis came from Detroit to the Patriots. Reed got $16 million a year AAV. We'll dig in on all the actual numbers as some of the contracts come out. A lot of the info is coming out this morning. They're paying $20 million a year AAV to Davis. And so I go, I'd rather pay 20 to Reed and 16 to Davis. Why was Reed signing for so little in Detroit? Well, number one, they're a contending team. And number two, the Patriots are going to have to get uncomfortable and overspend for the players they want. So DJ Reed might not have taken 20 here. He might have said, yeah, my market for you, New England, is like 22 or whatever. Right. I'll take 16 from Detroit. And that kind of highlights the difference, I think, in what the Patriots have to spend and overspend to get these players. But the idea players weren't going to sign here, I never really bought.
No, that was annoying because that kept popping up, and I don't know if it was based on last year, and I'm sure the NFLPA thing didn't help them. That survey that came out that just buried them, like that didn't help. And well, the state tax here, they'll never sign anybody. No, you just have to spend more, and they did. Like, look at all the guys they got yesterday. They clearly could have gone other places. Hell, Milton Williams essentially almost was signed somewhere else. So guys had other options. It's not like they're just getting bottom of the barrel guys.
No, and so look. Everything being equal, the money being equal, the Patriots, no one's going to choose them. But you don't have to make the money equal. You can throw more money at them like they did with Carlton Davis, and you can land them. Yeah. So after Milton Williams, that was my favorite signing because, again, what that represents. I was looking at ESPN, just kind of handed out grades on all these signings.
A++?
No.
What?
Have you seen these or no?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
So in all reality, was it B?
The first signing, well, it's individual grades.
Oh, I thought it was like sort of like a group effort.
First signing they made was Harold Landry III. That was a B+.
Agreed. Okay? Yeah.
Good signing.
B+.
Next signing they made, I believe, was Robert Spillane, right?
Yeah.
Also a B+.
Two back-to-back B+. All right.
Our two favorites, Keefe. Carlton Davis III,
yeah.
C+.
Wait, what?
Defensive tackle Milton Williams, C.
I disagree with these grades. I'd probably go B+ across the board, maybe A-. So B+ the player for Milton Williams, you could grade it higher just because of the message sent by the team and by Robert Kraft to actually spend money. Like, I like that more than even the player. Carlton Davis, you'd have to go maybe A-, just with that. Just the idea of lining up two really good cornerbacks is great. Not a lot of teams around the NFL have one cornerback that they like, let alone two.
I just think we're very excited here because it's been a while since they spent money.
Yeah.
And good for the Kraft for spending money. Good for Vrabel. I was questioning whether or not he had any pull or yank or any say, and it turns out he does. So good for Vrabel. Good for the Kraft for spending money. I would be cautious of overreacting too much to the signings, and those grades would be a reason to say, okay, nice, but not spectacular signings. Maybe some overpays. I'm sure that's the way they're looking at it, too. And you have to overpay. So I'm not criticizing any of those signings. I just think they have a long way to go and more to do. And left tackle and wide receiver are right at the top of that list. Do you have any thoughts on Mac Hollins, by the way?
Yeah, I don't love him.
No?
No, I mean, I think it's great that he wears, like, Animal from Electric Mayhem heads and, like, doesn't wear socks.
Goes barefoot
shoes.
everywhere.
Yeah, I don't care about that. Like, I like a character, but the player himself, I feel like it's just another one of kind of what you have. So like he's like a number 3 receiver on a good team.
I was going to say, they have to sign another 2 guys still.
Yeah.
But he's an upgrade. He's a professional receiver, which I know is something we said about KJ Osborne. But he's going to be, if he's your number 3, that's an upgrade in your room. If he's playing like 1 or 2, then you're in trouble.
So he's played on a ton of teams.
But if he's your 3 or 4,
yeah,
and I think he was the 3 with McDaniels in Vegas. Last year he was probably the 3 or 4 in Buffalo. I think if that's where he is,
he made some great plays.
That's a pretty good 3rd or 4th receiver.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I guess you could say he's battle tested, and he's played on a couple of playoff teams, right? The Eagles, the year that they beat the Pats, he was on that team, and then he was on obviously the Bills last year. But he had 31 catches in 17 games for 378 yards.
Right.
But compared to what they have on the roster, he's nice, but I don't know. It just really means that what they have. Maybe they'll cut Baker, or maybe they'll cut Polk, or maybe something along those lines, which is fine.
It's bad news for those guys.
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
he's better than them, but he's not a number 1. Like Drake May's hell yeah, Matt Collins. No, I'll take a receiver, but I don't know. You need somebody else.